Welcome to another episode of The Man Space. We have taken a break and we're coming back, and I am extremely excited to have this coming back into the man space with somebody who's near and dear to my heart, who is my heart brother. I am his sister. And what better way to have a man space conversation with regards to the masculine energy and the masculine power and the protection and the energy the masculine brings into the world, so that the feminine can shine and thrive and be in its place of power, because we need that masculine. The man space needs that. And I am very grateful to have Marquis Martin Hayes with me. So you're my co-host, and we're going to have a conversation today, Marquis.
Thank you for having me. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's jump in. Where do you want to go
Well,
today?
I am going to let you, in the honor of the man space, kick this off
All
and
right.
set the stage for where we want to go with us.
Awesome. So it's ironic that I just had a conversation not that long ago with my son and his fiance around um, the unhealthy masculine and unhealthy feminine situations, but the context of this particular conversation was around the unhealthy masculine. And one of the things that our society has become comfortable with is allowing people, unquote, to be who they are. And I think when we allow people to be who they are, meaning they act unruly or they are disrespectful or they are distasteful or they don't have awareness for others, be it the feminine energy or even other masculines, we move into the things and we create these terms that unquote define masculinity, alpha male, or the opposite, toxic masculinity, and things like that. We create a narrative of what we think or describe masculine as being, when at the end of the day, they're unhealthy. And obviously, every man's not unhealthy, but there are traits that are unhealthy that don't work on the planet that men are designed for. Some of those traits look like unrivaled anger or anger out of control. It looks like demanding their way and everyone else can kick rocks. It looks like not having consideration for other people's voices. It looks like being brash and being the loudest one in the room. It looks like abusing others verbally or physically, mentally. It looks like all of those things that, if you're not careful, on one side, you're being a man, you're taking charge, but underneath it, is unhealthiness. And so the conversation I was having with my son and his fiance is, hey, there are going to be people, friends, you're young now, you're going to begin to see some things that are not healthy. I want to challenge you, challenge them, speak up now before it becomes a problem later. And as men, one of the things my son said was, it's interesting that you would say that, because he knows some peers that he needs to start having some conversations with now, because where our conversation began was the extreme expression, but we dialed it all the way back to, hey, are you self-controlled? What happens when you don't get your way? And as men, we need to have those conversations with other men instead of blowing it off or distancing ourselves from them. We've got to take personal accountability as men to bring that to light while it's small. And as women, which we may or may not get to today, Dr. Cass, as mothers, it's not their job. Yet it is their responsibility if the father's not present or isn't demanding that level of respect to either bring male role models in, but someone has to set the bar. Hey, that's not acceptable. Disrespect is not acceptable. Speaking to me any sort of way is not acceptable. Because if we don't start when it's minor, then unfortunately, I'll say this, I try not to be too political. We'll have wives saying, well, wives saying things like boys will be boys, and that is not acceptable at all because that turns into nightmares at some point and on some scale. So I guess today we're going to talk about identifying some of the unhealthy traits and how maybe to go about them. And I'm calling other men to take responsibility for your friends, to take responsibility for your brothers, and have the deeper conversations. Hey, man, what's really going on? While it's early in the process, and I know it's uncomfortable, but if we don't do that, then we are aiding and abetting trauma, drama, and pain in other people's lives because we weren't man enough, talking about being a strong man, to use our voice to challenge our brother into a higher standard. So, opening up there, what are your thoughts, Dr. Cass?
That resonates for me as a woman who is grounded in her feminine energy, but working in a masculine international corporate finance space.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surrounded by men.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been blessed to have amazing men who worked for me, who've become my friends. You are a testament to a man and a woman can be friends,
Absolutely.
can be brother and sister. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
biological. And I'm constantly told, you're too loving, too caring, too comfortable with men. And if anything happens, you're asking for it, right?
Mm.
And I'm like, that comes from a place of toxicity
That's
and
right.
the acceptance that all men are bad.
That's right.
But I started in a career as a 21-year-old with technology, and my entire team was men. I
Wow.
had men from the age of 21, 22, all the way to 55.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, we're friends.
That's
None of them will ever allow anything happen to me.
mm-hmm.
Did they play fast and loose with other women? Yeah, they knew which women wanted what,
Mm-hmm.
and they knew the boundaries. And when women were available, they took advantage of what was available because it was a
Sure.
transaction, as the way
Yeah.
they explained it.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody like me, they were very protective. I grew up, we were in a war zone. They wouldn't even let me go home by myself. I had
Mm.
five of my teammates walk me home every day. My parents weren't happy. All the neighbors were asking, why is Kasturi having five boyfriends? And I said, I'm looking for two more because I have the weekends free, right? But while people didn't understand the power that comes with the safety
Mm-hmm.
of the protection of these guys, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even after I left for the US, they went home and made sure my family was protected. My family didn't understand the loving, nurturing power of that masculine brotherhood the
Mm-hmm.
world had until I was no longer there and they were recipients of it, right? So
Mm.
fast forward, I didn't come into the West expecting every man to be a predator.
To be
And
what?
the vibrations and the energy we put out, we attract. So
That's
I've
right.
been very blessed in attracting healthy masculine relationships that
Mm-hmm.
understood boundaries and respected me and
Mm-hmm.
had the wherewithal to, and love is such a misunderstood word in my culture. There are different words for love. I'm
Yeah.
proud to say that I have men who are my brothers and my friends who truly love me. You're one of
Mm-hmm.
them.
Yeah,
When I'm having
absolutely.
a situation, I pick up the phone and I call you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's
My
right.
husband, of 27 years. He's been my best friend for 30. He's somebody I can go to, but today he's medically at end of life and I can't reach to him.
Yeah.
But my support system of my brotherhood, as much as I have a sisterhood, I have a brotherhood. I am so proud of it. And I wish every woman had the opportunity to
Hmm.
experience that, because what
Yeah.
I hear is I don't believe it. That's not my experience. I am hoping my growth edge is going to be watching you and experiencing it through you.
Hmm.
And you're a father of two daughters. What would you say to young women who say, I will never trust a man?
Mm. Well, I start with why, what happened, and do the necessary work for you to heal. Because if you live from the angle of you can never trust a man, well, first of all, they're half the population, so you're going to always encounter them. Then unknowingly, energetically, you invite negative masculine, or as it should be called, the actual toxic masculinity into your life because you're creating a barrier that is not natural, it is not normal, and spiritually, it is not viable. It doesn't work that way. So while on the heart and mind nature, there's the resistance, find out what that's about and get that healed for your own safety, for your own sanity. That's one. The second thing I would say is find self-awareness. What I mean by that is, I believe part of why you are respected by men and not a transaction is because it doesn't mean others don't respect themselves, but you respect yourself. And you show that by how you behave, by how you interact with the confidence, even if it's a smile and kindness, which are normal communication things. Inside of that, you set your barriers and boundaries. You're not setting an energetic space of flirtation. You're setting an energetic space of love and respect. And when you do that, then we know how to approach you also because you've set your own internal standard versus utilizing it or manipulating it because of insecurities inside of you to get attention. So I would say the second thing is after doing the work to find out what's causing that unlivable statement of I don't trust men. The second thing would be to discover and learn self-awareness and self-respect and look at how are you showing up on the planet? Are you showing up timid? Are you showing up flirtatious? Are you showing up clear? Those things help when you align within yourself a truth around that, then others will align according to it. And then the last thing I would say is that anytime you find someone who is not worthy of your trust, be direct with them and make space for yourself somewhere else. And
It's
that's just smart.
interesting. I'm glad you said that. So, two things come to my mind. When I left Sri Lanka in the middle of a war
Hmm.
and went to India, India is one of the most unsafe places for women.
I've heard.
I walked around with an open safety pin and a bag of chili powder because I had a sister to take care of and me, right? I was
Hmm.
feisty
Hmm.
and I
Hmm.
had two of us to protect.
Hmm.
And so I got into a space where I was terrified of men,
Hmm.
and men felt that. And
Hmm.
I realized dogs only chase people who are afraid,
That's right. That's
and animals smell fear, and so do people. The only way for me to deal with this is to overcome my fear
that's
and
right.
stand my
That's
ground and
right.
get
That's right.
safety, right? So a lot of times it's not that women are flirtatious, women
Hmm.
are fearful
Hmm.
because of their experiences. Because if
Hmm.
something happened to them, one out of four girls by the time they're 25 have been sexually molested or assaulted in some way, shape, or form in the United States. And in the other
Hmm.
parts of the world might be more, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
the first thing your own mother asks is, what were you wearing? What did you do? Did you smile
Hmm.
at
Yeah,
it? Right? So everything is always victim blaming, whether
that's
it's
right.
the mother or the father, right?
That's right.
And the father might reinforce it saying, yes, men are dogs, don't trust men. I am
Hmm.
here to protect you. And the girls grow up saying, I can only trust my dad.
Hmm.
And my mother is reinforcing there's something wrong with me, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this transcends culture, this transcends
Hmm.
generation.
Hmm.
And then that fear sets in, and the fear becomes what attracts that toxicity
That's right.
because predators know who are afraid.
That's right. That's right. And they're weak, so they're looking for weak energy.
So
Yeah.
what I would love to hear from a masculine perspective is
Hmm.
if predators can see it, so
Hmm.
can good men.
Hmm.
What can good men do to create a safe space and
Hmm.
break that cycle?
Hmm.
Because the oppressed sometimes, most of the time, are not in a place to break the cycle.
Yeah.
But somebody on the other side who cares enough needs
Hmm.
to step in and help break that cycle. What can good men do? It can
Yeah.
be workplaces, it can be in society, it could be in churches.
Hmm.
What can good men do? Because I know there are a lot of good men. I will never subscribe to the theory that all men are one way. No, because
That's
I
right.
feel it.
Yeah. It's a really great question, Cass, because in my experience, it's there are things we can do and it's limited. So the first thing we can do is let go of the assumption that there's nothing I can do. Because while, yes, she is certainly responsible for herself, if she looks to you in any form or fashion, in terms of uh, respect, then that automatically means there's an open door. So the first thing we can do is lead with respecting her, period. What I mean by that is acknowledging her presence when she's around, offering to help like you would do someone else that you actually cared about. If there is an opportunity or something needs to be said, this is so weird to say this out loud, but this is something I've had to do. If I saw a woman and she's whatever, let's just say her bra strap is showing or something like that, something that could make her look embarrassed. I've gone to them and said, "Hey, just want you to know," I'll make a gesture to try to help them cover themselves or take care of that. And the reason I would do that is because I didn't want them to be perceived a certain way, and I wanted them to know, "Hey, just want you to know you might not know you matter. So please be aware," or pull your pull the skirt down just a little bit. I've
Mhm.
literally done that multiple times, not because I'm the right guy, but I realize because of how I was raised by my father, that's predatory, right? And I didn't want them to find themselves in that situation over something so simple. So we have to, even though it can be uncomfortable to speak to someone else's life, if we know that there's room to say something, if they are in a compromised state or situation, or a male that we know doesn't have their best interest at heart, we don't have to out the male. We could simply say, you might want to be careful.
Yeah. Mhm.
But it's on us, like I started the conversation, for those of us who have some healthy masculinity to speak, to use our voice, to protect, to speak to the woman as guidance and speak on her behalf if necessary. But we should be doing that either way.
Mhm.
And I think it takes, I do believe it takes men to raise men, but I also know women have great influence. So
Absolutely.
from the angle of a healthy male, it's really on us to speak up. And if they allow guidance, offer it. Never
Mhm.
in a I'm a right angle, because if I come from the angle of I'm right, which I've done many, many times, what I found is that I was just met with resistance, and that
Mhm.
doesn't work. So I had to instead ask better questions and help them derive their own conclusions. And if asked, then share my perspective, but otherwise attempt to ask more questions so that they can come to their own conclusion.
I totally hear you. And two things resonated for me. The
Hmm.
fact that you use the word predatory, right?
Hmm.
So I am always told men are predatory, you need to be careful. I'm like, no, not all animals are predatory.
No, they're not. That's right.
I grew up with elephants. They are massive, they are prehistoric, and they are
Hmm.
one of the most gentle, caring, loving, playful creatures,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
I'm also aware that just because I don't eat the lion doesn't mean the lion is not going to eat me. But I can
Right.
tell the difference between an elephant and a lion, right?
Yeah.
And so we as women are repeatedly told this by men, and good men tell us this, right?
Hmm.
And it's hard for us to then function normally in society and workplace with
Hmm.
these signals, because
Hmm.
then you're blamed for not showing up in your full power.
Hmm.
You're functioning less than, but at the
Hmm.
same time, good men get discounted too,
Yeah.
right? So that is one aspect of it. And the other is it also allows men in company of each other
Hmm.
to denigrate women because it's okay.
Mm.
Because then that locker room can spill into the workplace or society.
Hmm.
And then it becomes a joke.
Hmm.
And nothing happens overnight, right? It happens
Yeah.
incrementally. And when it goes that far, it's way out.
That's right.
One of the things when I'm in the Caribbean, the young men come and ask me to mentor them because they ask Mike and me to mentor them because they want lasting marriages like Mike and I.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
don't want broken marriages like their father, but they
Hmm.
also complain the women don't like them hanging out with men. And so what we always ask them is, so when you're hanging out with men, where are you? At bars. What are you doing? Are you picking up women?
Hmm.
Sure. So what if you're with a woman and you're at a bar with your friends and you're picking up women, and one of the women who show up as you're sitting there or drinking there and hitting on people is your mother or your sister? What do you do? Oh, I won't let them. Well, then whoever you're collectively hitting on is somebody's mother, somebody's sister,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So where do you draw the boundaries and whose sister and whose mother matter?
Yeah.
And sometimes when men get together, who they are is suppressed to be part of a group,
Yeah.
or sometimes they don't say anything because their own experiences, because they're racially different or their experience is different, speaking up
Yeah.
is not healthy. So they
Yeah.
don't speak up. And then the woman in that space starts wondering, who can I trust? And then
Hmm.
it spirals, right? So
Yeah.
there's so much going on in this space because a
Yeah.
lot of men have suffered, they have trauma.
Yeah.
How do they then address their trauma so that they can show up in their protective space?
Yeah. I
No.
think,
If you
yeah.
are a particular race and a particular stature, if you show up to support a woman who is of a different race, then you might become hunted for that too.
Yeah. It's a tricky space, but what's resonating for me is first on the predatory. I was, and I think you got it, but I'm not sure. Speaking of, if I know someone is that way, I would, hey, you might want to be careful with that particular person, not necessarily all men. As it relates to the latter, more bulk of what you're talking about, I think a lot of it has really goes back to what we were talking about with you. And that is we all must do more self-work. Because when we do the self-work, I can stand and go, hey man, bro, that's not cool. Because I'm not worried about the social pressure in that moment. The other thing that that allows me to do, how do I distinguish between who's mother, who's sister, is one, a woman's going to be beautiful to men. That's just what it is, right? But that's not license to uh, take advantage of her or to bed her. That's not licensed for any of those things. And when the woman who's done her work says, thank you, but no thank you, in the eye of someone who may not have positive intention, respect is firmly established. It's easier for other men to step in if they need to in that moment also because she's so clear. At the same time, when one works on themselves, it's important to, okay, does she just have great legs? Nothing wrong with it. But is that a reason? I need to do that. I need to do that inner check. I'm in a phase of life right now where because purpose is important to me, and it's only because I was forced to do a lot of inner work, I'm not interested in talking to every woman. And so if there's no connection that I feel beyond just her beauty, I'm probably not going to say anything. And that doesn't make me a model male. What that makes me is a model human because I'm able to challenge my own natural inclinations of, ooh, she's so beautiful, mixed with, is there something beyond that that I feel that I would want to connect with her? And if so, I'm going to go for it. That doesn't mean she's willing, but I can at least go in good conscience of I feel like I would like to know more. And she has the right to say, no, thank you. And I should be able to respect that no matter what and let that be. But that I think comes with having done the work the same way you've done the work. So you compelled those around you to respect you, not because you said, respect me, but because you respected yourself. It created the culture, the energetic field around you. And it was just easy to recognize. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And when you did that, it made other men want to protect
Yes.
because we saw it.
Yes. Mhm. And
But
it's a beautiful feeling for everybody, right? We're living in an age where a lot of men are feeling like women are empowered, they're making money. I have no way of protecting, and I am being emasculated. But in that conversation, what is missed is the masculine protection women need has
Mhm,
never gone away. It's there.
mhm,
It is
mhm,
the 100-pound gorilla sitting there in the room.
mhm,
It is missed.
mhm.
And any male who feels emasculated, always, all they have to do is look inside and see what's going on around them. Because
Mhm.
all this disrespect and all of the things that are targeting women, there is ample opportunity for every man to stand up and be the superhero.
Yeah, there is. And if I'm intimidated or emasculated by a woman having more money or more power, something's wrong with me. I haven't done my work, period. Because my manhood is not defined by how much money I make. My manhood is not defined by my position. That's that false sense of power. That's that false toxic masculinity. Now we can talk toxic masculinity. That's that false narrative, toxic masculinity around I must be in control. I must project a certain gravitas to be the man. And the reality is that shows how much you're not self-aware and less of a man than you think you are in the sense, in the context of healthy masculine energy. It is the nature by which authentic leaders lead. But we live in a society that celebrates, so to speak, you have money, so therefore you should have power. And we see now people with power who have money are not integral. They do not have a healthy masculinity. So, but we've
They
been
don't have a
conditioned,
healthy humanity, period.
yeah, we've been conditioned to link money with power and therefore they deserve respect. And it's like, no, not at all. But I think, Kaz, that's a lot of that is a result of us not doing our own work. So we're looking for validation outside of ourselves by anyone that will give it to us. And if they give it to us, then and because they have more than we do, then we naturally respect them. And it's sad. It's
It's
sad.
sad. The other thing that makes me sad, I always talk about in the man space, is when we raise boys,
Hmm.
tell them not to feel.
Mm.
Beat the feeling out of boys, and then
Yeah.
blame men for never showing feeling. So if
Yeah.
you don't know to relate to your own feeling, then
Yeah.
you can't be self-aware and you can't control your
You can't.
emotions.
That's right.
And therefore, you can't show up in your own power as a grown man. And I
Yeah.
raised two boys, right? I raised two brothers.
Yeah.
And it's not easy being a middle sister raising an older brother and a younger brother.
Yeah.
But this is reality. A lot of times, women have to end up raising the sons or the brothers, right? And
Yeah. It does.
in that situation, what can women do differently? Because to me, it feels like mothers have a tendency to beat out the emotion out of women, men, boys.
Hmm.
And then the wives get mad that they have to help their husbands or partners relearn what that is, right?
Yeah.
And so we go back and forth, and it can be very confusing to the
It,
male.
it is. It is. I can tell you as a male, it's very confusing because um, we have, in some scenarios, don't show emotion because mothers, sisters are trying to help us learn to fight
Mhm.
in a world that doesn't care, and that those emotions being displayed may be taken advantage of. That's one side. The other side is